Okay, good morning. There are lots of opportunities and channels that you can use to become active and learn more about cybersecurity with the mentorship group, CyberSecurity Sensei. I believe everyone is looking at the screen. I am on LinkedIn. If anybody has LinkedIn, please feel free to go find me out there. It says that I'm an IT specialist at the U.S. Department of Labor, which is true. Feel free to friend me on that. Oh, there's Parima. All right. Feel free to send me a friend request there. I do announce information. I don't know if you guys have seen on LinkedIn, but there are a lot of, I will say they're entrepreneurs, but they're almost trolls. Good morning, Parima. There are almost, how do I say this? Every time I post a link to a YouTube video, that we've done, somebody pops up out of the woodwork from Nepal or Bangladesh or India and says, "Hi, I can help boost your YouTube, membership. Just give me $800 and I will." And I'm like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting. People whose names I can barely pronounce are saying, send me money to this far off country and I'll help you with your YouTube videos to make them more popular. Yeah, maybe next time. So, hi Parima, did you want to say anything?
Good morning.
Hello. Okay, good to have you. We're sort of, I notice you're just on the phone, so you can't really see what we're doing, but we're sharing some of the resources that we have for cybersecurity.
I'm on both.
Okay, all right.
The app makes me call in.
All right. So, number one, feel free to friend me on LinkedIn. I do believe, in fact, I'm going to go look at it right now. Me about, oh, here is view profile. My profile is Scotty Ward. That shows how old I am. I am an early adopter from LinkedIn. Scotty Ward, no 1987s or Tulsa, Oklahoma, or my zip code or any of that sort of stuff. Nope, just Scotty Ward. That's me. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've been around for a long time. What can I say? Let's see, another opportunity that we have, another place you can go to connect in with us is our FREECONFERENCECALL.com wall. And it's called a wall simply because it allows you to connect to the online meeting, learn a little bit more about our group. I think everybody understands about the group, but we're a peer mentorship program. We're not a training program. In other words, people don't come to me and say, how do I pass my Security Plus exam? I can help, Chris and I can help you locate resources and help to encourage you as you're going along, but we're not, we don't expect people to come see us and then be able to pass your exam. This program is designed to give you more about the mindset necessary to be an effective white hat. And we'll talk about a little bit related to that when we get over to the news articles, because there was an article that sort of talked about people who may not be black hats until they really feel like there's a cause that they want to support. So we'll talk about that. But from the wall, you can click to join the meeting, or you can find the phone number and access code for the meeting. So this is a good resource to join our calls on Saturday mornings. Another one, we have a group called CS-Sensei at groups.io. That's a mailing list. I have had at least one person contact me and say, I'm not on Facebook. I don't want to be on Facebook. Social media repulses me. So where can I learn? And this is another alternative, a far safer alternative. You don't have to share anything except to sign up. And so this is a way to do it. Let's see, I am the owner of the group. And to subscribe to the group, all you do is send an email to CS-Sensei plus subscribe at groups.io. And you'll receive a welcome message. You have to reply to that welcome message to say, yes, indeed, I did send you this email and I do want to subscribe. And once you do that, you will start to receive all of the emails that we post to that group. So that's another resource. I try and make sure that everything, I don't always do it, but I try and make sure that the things that we post here on our Facebook group are also mirrored over on the email group, because there are some people that don't feel totally comfortable being on social media, and I can understand that. If you take a look at, poll some of your cybersecurity friends and acquaintances, and you say, hey, are you on Facebook or, TikTok, or what are some of the other ones, weird ones, Twitter, are you on any of those? They'll look at you like you're from Mars. Some of them, they're like, no. And the reason is, part of the advantage of cybersecurity is you learn how your information can get used against you. So some of these folks have already decided that it's not worth it to them to put their information out in an obviously public area like social media. So that's another challenge for some of us. Some people just don't want to be out there. So I don't mind being out there, because I think that this is a great program, and I am, and Chris and I were talking about this, I have to be the evangelist for people who don't know what cybersecurity is, don't think they can do it, and don't know where to start. So I'm the one that you should contact. So we have the Facebook group out there. It's called CS-Sensei, no dash, CS-Sensei. That's the Facebook group. And then lastly, out on YouTube, I've been putting all of our Facebook sessions, all of our recorded sessions from these FREECONFERENCECALL.com, not Facebook. I've been putting all of our sessions out on YouTube. So we actually have more than 50 recorded sessions that people can look at anytime they like. And they are, I believe, extremely helpful. We try to follow some sort of a theme for them. So yes, we have general discussion, but then we also have, a war story of mine, or a topic that I've researched, or like we had with you, Nerman, we had your show and tell. That's out there as well, the WatchGuard demo here. So this is another great resource, especially if you are just joining us and need to catch up. This is how you catch up. Or if you don't attend very frequently, here are nearly all of our sessions from the last year or so, recorded and for your review at your leisure. I would say one of the most powerful ones that we've had happens to be the most recent one we did here, called Cybersecurity and the Law. This is something that a lot of people tend to avoid, because the moment you talk about law, they tend to put that together with, formal dress and say lawsuits, and, they stay away from it. Well, I don't mind talking about the law, because I've been involved with the law. I've been involved in investigations. I've been involved in criminal activities that a member of my team engaged in, and that sort of thing. I'm happy to share about those things because I want to teach you, again, the value of staying strictly white hat and the risks of stepping into the gray hat arena. And to reiterate the difference between white, black, and gray hats, generally speaking, a white hat is somebody who only does cybersecurity for preservation, for protection. You're the sort of person that when somebody hires you, they can rely on you to work to keep their infrastructure safe, their data safe, and you will be an employee that doesn't do something like go out on Glassdoor and say, my employer sucks, or like this guy that was on Twitter, the guy who just put a real nasty note out about how bad Twitter's security has been, or security basically isn't, and ended up getting called in front of Congress to talk about it. So, those are, if you remember in our CyberSecurity Sensei Facebook group, we actually have a code of ethics there. And the code of ethics says that we will not do anything to malign our employers where we work. So if I work for the federal government, I can't say bad things about how the federal government does things. We had a member here of our group from Bank of America. So I had to sort of tone down my Bank of America war stories, that sort of thing. We're supposed to be building up, not breaking down. And that is a tenet of what's called a white hat. Now, a black hat is somebody who, for selfish reasons, or as we've seen recently in the news, for activist reasons or environmental reasons or whatever, these groups are engaged in performing illegal or unethical activities against other groups. A black hat is somebody who, when they're caught and when they're prosecuted, goes to jail. Okay, that's what a black hat can be defined as. You are doing something, you're using your technical skills, but not for the right reasons. You're using your technical skills for personal gain and benefit. And those selfish people frequently end up behind bars. Rightly so, because they break laws. So that's a black hat. The issue is there's the white hat group, which are working to, I'll say preserve the infrastructure. There are the black hats that are actively working to break down certain areas of the infrastructure or invade or deny service or whatever. But then in the middle, there is this massive group called gray hats. And they are neither fully white nor fully black. And I dare say most of the IT arena are in that gray hat area. You haven't thought about it. You are technically inclined, you do things like for IT, but you've never, for example, encountered somebody who says, hey, guess what? I can fix the lottery for New Jersey. Do you want to join in and make $10,000 or something like that? You've never thought about it. So those are the gray hats. Those are people who may be upstanding citizens doing things all correctly each and every day, but could be convinced to do something illegal, immoral, or unethical for whatever the reason. Could be money, could be that you hate somebody. I've seen that a lot. Disgruntled employees, as they are heading out the door, they're furiously, delete everything on this server or whatever, encrypt everything and, use a passcode that I won't even remember, those sorts of things. I've seen it happen. Those are gray hats who, for whatever reason, swing over to the black hat side. And they conduct nasty things because they want to. They feel justified, or they feel they're going to gain a benefit. So those are gray hats. They're, in the middle. They haven't done anything bad, but they have it in their mind that if I'm tempted or if I'm provoked, you're going to get it. Like IT is my personal tool that I can use as a vendetta for you. No, that's a gray hat. That's not a white hat. Regardless of how good you seem, you still have the capability to swing over to the black hat side. So the CS-Sensei group is 100% white hat. I don't want people with gray hat mentalities who are trying to learn how they can mess somebody else up. That's not what we're here for. I want you to have a solid ethical foundation so that when you do go get yourself a job and apply for it and take your interview, you can say, I adhere to the CS-Sensei Code of Ethics. And you've read it, by the way, and you can talk to it at your interview. Yeah, we've got a code of ethics, and it says that we won't do this or whatever. That's the advantage of this mentorship program, so that you can say, yes, I'm learning how to be a white hat. White hats are difficult to spot, but it is oh so rewarding. I'll give you an example, just myself. I have been doing IT and security for over 30 years. Good morning, Harminder. For over 30 years, and I have had this occur when I go into let's say, an incident response team. Something occurred, they call together an incident response team, I walk in the door and they say, Scotty, what should we do? That's a big responsibility. But what that means is the people in that room implicitly trust me. You want to build that sort of trust. You don't just want to be a techie, another techie sitting around the outside edge of the room. You want to be somebody who's sitting at that table where decisions are made that are going to either cause your employer to shine or to sink. Some decisions are that big. You want to be there with the decision makers to where they lean over to you and say, what should we do? And you can only do that by becoming and staying on that ethical white hat side. Okay? I can't emphasize that enough. If you're not a white hat, you're just a techie. And I don't want to be mentoring you. And I've had people that I won't mentor because they're sort of like, I like IT. Okay. I like security. Okay. But, if somebody provokes you, are the fangs going to come out? I don't want that. I want people who are balanced. So if you take a look here, again, the Cybersecurity and the Law is a great video. Some of the other fun ones that I did, Shields Up is another good one. That's the one where Russia had just recently invaded the Ukraine, and the CISA, Cybersecurity Information Security Agency, at the Department of Homeland Security declared a state called Shields Up because an active cyber war was in place and occurring. Russia was actively hacking Ukrainian interests across the internet. So that's another good one. There's lots of fun ones here too. The Cicada 3301 Internet Scavenger Hunt, that occurred a few years ago, but it gives you an idea as to the types of people that are out there, and some are extremely creative, and it's fun to see some of the things they do. Get Out and Vote, that was another great one about, and this is something I've never seen in any news article. I've never seen it, although I was there. And so I can say, yeah, this is what happened, because I remember running up and down the hallway in the Pentagon trying to correct this. So yeah, I was there. Here's another good one, biometrics. If you don't know about biometrics, you can learn enough here, and it says, for example, biometrics are great for secondary but not primary identification. You can use it for exclusion, but you should not use biometrics as your primary methods for authentication. Why? Go look at the video. Security classifications and clearances. What are they in the federal government? How do they operate? How do you get them? Those sorts of things. Those are all covered in the video. So Windows 11 security features. What's so great about Windows 11? You know, why are people leaving Windows 10 to go to Windows 11? If you watch that video, you'll also recognize that the two key security features in Windows 11 have already existed in Windows 10. The only difference is they are now mandatory in Windows 11. Before they were optional, and most people turned them off or left them turned off from the manufacturer. So it's a good thing for you to look for. Federal raises and promotions. Here's another good one. So there are lots of tools, lots of things. How about this one? This one was fun. Locations and your federal job search. What difference does it make where you work? If it doesn't really matter and you are possibly mobile, there are great ways that you can work that to your advantage and get yourself into and maybe promoted within the cybersecurity career field. I heard this, I haven't verified it or anything, but I heard that for decades now, people who go over to the, what's it called, the Middle East, to areas like Qatar and Afghanistan and Iraq, I've heard, and I'm not sure which countries do this, but I've heard that your first X amount of salary that you make is tax-free. And again, I heard this, I didn't research it, but I heard something like your first $88,000 per year is non-taxable. That could make a significant difference if you're mobile enough in where you might choose to go to work. You might just want to go do a tour or two over in Qatar or in Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan or somewhere like that, if you don't mind sleeping in a tent, because you may end up out there. So here's another one. Your job interview. What do you do? How do you do it? How are you supposed to approach a potential interviewer when you don't have a lot of experience? This specific session was dedicated to how to do your interview when you don't have a lot of experience. And there was another one which was about your resume. I'm not seeing it right now, but your resume. How do you arrange your resume? It may have been in there as well. How do you arrange your resume when you don't have a lot of experience? So lots of opportunities there. Go back and look at them. They are worth the time you spend to learn about them. How do you sell yourself? You know, I think I called one. Yeah, there it is. You are the commodity. What I'm saying is there are people who are out there who can't get people that they hire. They are in critical need of people who are aware of and interested in and enthusiastic about getting a job in cybersecurity. And they may want people with a CISSP. They may want people with 2 to 5 years of experience. They may want people with master's degrees or this sort of thing. But guess what? Those people are few and far between. So what happens is the hiring manager and the HR talk about, well, maybe we don't need the degree. Okay, and they change the vacancy announcement. Well, maybe we don't need 5 years of experience. We can go with 2 or 1. And so the HR shifts to that as well. Guess what? You are now in the running for the job that 2 months ago or 3 months ago was out there that you didn't qualify for, but they couldn't hire somebody for it. So they're basically saying, this is important enough that I have to get somebody in the door, and I will train you. Great. Get in the door. Show them that you're a good study, a fast learner, and you have that ethical underpinning. You're not just doing this because it's fun and because you're good at it. There's more to it than that. If people are going to trust you to touch their infrastructure with elevated privileges, they're going to want to know that they can trust you. Okay, so that's an important thing to do when you are thinking about your job and the benefits of it. It's not just technical. Honestly, it's not. I think I mentioned this last week. I remember, Parima, you may remember as well because you know this person, but we had a particular person that our program manager, our principal program manager, walked into the office and said, I'm going to hire this guy. And I was like, what experience does he have? None. But I want to hire him. I'm like, well, what can he do? Well, nothing yet, but I want to hire him. I'm like, holy smokes, we're starting at the bottom here, aren't we? And she said, yes, I was so impressed with this person, his attitude and his ability to communicate, that I want to bring him on and I want to train him. And I said, okay, let's go. And this guy is still on the contract, Parima, doing work there in Washington, D.C. The guy's only experience was working at Chick-fil-A. And he got himself an IT job because of the type of person he was. And that was like 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, so it's possible. You can do it. But you have to be one of those enthusiastic folks that people go into an interview and they may look at, 20, 40, 60 people. But then you catch in their memory and say, this person really seemed interested. Not just, I got to have a job, but interested in making the world a better place. They were cheerful. They communicated well. They were excited about the interview. Those sorts of things do carry forward and add to the plus column for why they should hire you. It's not all, I'm skilled in Linux, or I'm, skilled in firewalls, or this sort of thing. That may not be what they're looking for. Sure, you may not measure up there, but man, you've got the personal skills, what they call soft skills. You've nailed the soft skills. And oh, by the way, here's a copy of the code of ethics for my mentorship group. Yes, carry it into your interview. If somebody asks, why should we hire you? Look, I've already agreed that I'm going to stick to this code of ethics. And I'm proud to do it. Wow. Who else can say that when they go into an entry-level cybersecurity job? Perhaps no one. Maybe just you. So just things to think about. Let's see. We've got our Facebook group. We've got our YouTube page. We've got our groups.io mailing list. The meeting wall, which is where you can always jump onto these sessions. And if you ever want to, friend me on LinkedIn, I will be happy to. I don't seek connections on LinkedIn. I really don't. You notice I have 471. There are people out there that can barely spell IT that have over 1,000 connections. They'll connect with anybody. You know, down at the bottom, every once in a while, LinkedIn says, "Hey, do you know this person? Do you know this person? Do you know this person?" And they'll click yes. You know, join. Let's be friends. Person could be in Nepal for all they care. They just want to look like they're heavily engaged. I don't do that. I'm very selective, and I am down to the point where I am now agreeing to friend requests or reaching out with friend requests on LinkedIn maybe 5 times a month. Okay? So the 471 connections that you see there are solid connections, some of which I have been connections with for 20 years. And these people know me and trust me. So it's good to build that awareness and trust, not just to knock the algorithm out of the park by having 2,000 people that like you. Well, who are they? I don't know. They were just out there, so next thing I know, I've got 2,000 friends. There's a common cartoon that you see of somebody at their funeral, and there's like mom and dad and sister or something, and the person's there in the coffin or whatever, and they're looking around and all the seats are empty, and they're saying, wow, I expected a greater turnout. This person had 1,000 Facebook friends. Be aware that Facebook friends are not quite the same as real, honest to gosh, sit down and have lunch together, help each other learn together friends. Not quite the same. So, again, feel happy, you can connect to me anytime you like, and I would be happy to help you in any way I can professionally. That's what we're here for. That's why Chris and I do this. We want to help, and we thought about it, and the best way I can describe it is I am trying to help, and I won't say train, I'm trying to help influence my possible future coworkers. How about that? That's why I do this. For free. So that's what I had so far today. Chris, did you have anything? If not, we'll go to the news articles.
You said it all, Scotty.
Okay. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. Liked my post. All right. So let's go down to this. These are the news articles that I posted in our Facebook group for the last week. Let's see. How do I get to the group? Discussion? That's it. All right. So first of all, at the very top, here is our code of ethics. If you click on that, you can get a copy of our code of ethics that says what we do and why we do it. As a mentor or mentee, you certify, if you're a member of this group, that you're going to do these things or not do the things that are listed in there. So here's where, the guy who just went on Twitter, the Twitter chief of security, here's where he went wrong, the last two. He conducted an activity which might constitute a conflict of interest or otherwise damage the reputation of or is detrimental to his employer that he had just left. And it says, you agree that you will not intentionally injure or impugn the professional reputation of. of colleagues, clients, or employers. He impugned the reputation of Twitter. Now, he may have rightly done so, but that's where he violated the code of ethics. So he couldn't be a mentor or a mentee in this group. See what I'm saying? This comes almost word for word from the CISSP code of ethics. Almost word for word. So if you are working for your CISSP, which everyone should be, if you're going to get yourself a cybersecurity job, you're going to agree to abide to these things anyway. So take a look at it. It's helpful to see it when you are participating in this group. There are also, okay, I'm going to go back here, Battle of the Boardroom, Python. Here's the one that came up this week. There was a hacking group that dumped, it said 10 gigabytes of files and emails of the military that they didn't appreciate. This group was not a real, how do I say this? This was not a group that was known to go out and try and crash infrastructures, but they were doing nasty things every once in a while because they objected to how these governments are doing things. And one of the biggest things they pointed out is they said these South American governments are selling out to the United States. They are bowing to global imperialism, I think is the way they typically say it. Well, U.S. calls it capitalism, but there's a nasty side of capitalism as well. And that is that, you know, money talks. And there are people that on the capitalist side are more interested in growing their business than maybe in doing things like making sure that the environment isn't trashed. It's quite possible. So it's important for you to recognize, and by the way, this is in your Security Plus exam, the reasons why people may conduct black hat operations against you or your infrastructures. And it could be, they call them hacktivists, but they are hackers who are like with Greenpeace or what's another one? Anyway, groups, Amnesty International, or those sorts of things. There are groups that are out there that are doing nasty things because they want to raise attention. They want to get their cause known. So they're happy to do things like trash your bank, or trash your social media page, or trash your government web page, or whatever. They're out there. And they may just be doing it because they want to be seen. But you don't want them to be seen on your page. Okay? So this is a very important understanding for us, and that is not all black hats are, you know, sinister thugs. They're just, you know, the gray hat techies that realize that they can use their technical skills to get something done. And they do it in an illegal, immoral, or unethical fashion. So just be aware of that. We're not defending against, you know, greasy spies all the time. We're defending against numerous groups. And so we have to be just as smart as they are. We have to know the attack vectors, how they do these, and then plan for making sure that they don't occur on our infrastructures. So this is a good article to read. Here's another one. Python vulnerability that was identified over a decade ago that allows for code execution. Now, they didn't say, you know, it allows people to compromise systems or whatever, but it does, if somebody exploits this Python code vulnerability, they can execute code that was not designed to be executed. That's the main point of this. The issue is that it had been there for 15 years. Somebody brought it up 15 years ago, identified it. It was literally identified it with a vulnerability number and then ignored. Nobody bothered to patch it for 15 years. Now, don't know if any, I did not read all the way through the article, but the question is, is somebody going to capitalize on it? Maybe. They said that 350,000 projects that have been conducted since this vulnerability was identified, 350,000 projects could be at risk. Python is an extremely popular programming language, especially in IT. So, what about the code for your smartwatch? What about the code for your Bluetooth hearing aids? What about your apps on your phones? Some of them, maybe most of them, could have been coded in Python. And they could all be vulnerable. So that's the challenge. Now, all sorts of people are going to start correcting things by fixing their Python code that, had they properly researched the Python earlier on, they could have found it. This vulnerability was identified and was given a number 15 years ago. That's scary. I don't know if you guys remember, but the DoD, in the last couple months, just put together a suggestion that in the future, they haven't made it mandatory yet, but they suggested that in the future, any code writer would be responsible to certify that all the code they submit for Department of Defense contracts is vulnerability free. Anybody who wrote something in Python in the last 15 years violated that. So maybe the DoD thought about that sort of thing and said, we can't afford this anymore. What happens if our missile system is not secure? What happens if our battlefield communication system can be listened to by adversaries? So for the Department of Defense, they think about lives. They think about, lives are saved by how we do best practices in DoD. But Homeland Security could be the same thing. OSHA could be the same thing. You want a safe workplace. We all do. So OSHA, who is part of the Department of Labor, are responsible to make sure that people are paying attention to labor laws for occupational safety. You're not allowed to have, let's say a internal combustion engine or a diesel engine that vents its gases into the workplace. Not allowed. Stair height can only be certain sizes. Why? Because if you get any higher than that, people are going to trip and fall and hurt themselves. So by law, there's something that says your stairs can only be so big. OSHA came up with that, and the legislators enacted it as laws. So just realize that things like these vulnerabilities, DoD's brought this up as a discussion topic. And I think what they're trying to do is a valiant effort. I don't know if they're going to be successful at it. But, like it said, the sources were mixed about that. What about like this? 15-year-old vulnerability in Python. You remember the Windows print vulnerability? How old was that one? Does anybody remember? The Windows print vulnerability that came out this year? I think it was 13 years it's been out there. The vulnerability was in existence, just nobody brought it up. Nobody discovered it. Or, let me say, nobody with a white hat discovered it. Stuff like this happens. There was a story about another group where somebody said, nah, we're fine. We don't need those sorts of security issues or whatever. Don't need security. So in the middle of a meeting or whatever, somebody intentionally hacked into this guy's computer during a meeting and said, no, you're not secure. Well, that was a violation of our code of ethics. That was not white hat. Somebody just said, I'll show them that I'm right and they're wrong. Well, that's not white hat. That's not white hat. Remember, you've got to be ethically without question. Any discussion? I'm running out of topics to discuss, so I think we're about done. Anything that anybody wants to bring up? Y'all are so quiet. Okay, Chris, did you have anything for the team?
I've actually took some notes from your whole conversation and some action items from my end for the next few meetings.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As a reminder, the Battle of the Boardroom, and I just put up a little entry slide for this. The point of this, like it says, this is going to be a mock C-level meeting. And here is a way to think about it. To be effective in your cybersecurity role, you may be called on to speak persuasively to C-level people within your organization or your company. C-level. What that means is those who can decide the budget of your organization. And then the question arises, how would you approach non-technical executives on the topic of cybersecurity? I will send out more information on this, but it is now 2 weeks away from today. We're going to do the Battle of the Boardroom. And what I mean by that is I want you to think about how you would sell the C-level executives on a cybersecurity initiative that must occur, but it's really expensive. Because frequently they are. How do you convince them? And it may not be a simple discussion. We got to do this. Oh, okay, let's spend the extra $4 million. They may not agree to it. So my point in doing this, my point is going to be, I'm going to be the grouchy C-level executive who says no. And I want you to convince me. All right? I will let each of you, anybody that's on the call, take a shot at it. And I'm going to score you on how you speak, how you are trying to persuade me, cranky old CEO that I am, how you're trying to persuade me that this must occur. Okay? So you will be operating in the role of the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer. You have a seat there at the table with everybody else, but you're bringing a requirement that carries a heavy budgetary toll. How do you do it? How do you convince people? We talked about this frequently in other sessions. Let me see if I can find one that sort of talks to this. I believe I had one called Business Risk and Bottom Line. well, we'll look for it, but let's see. There it is, business risk and bottom line. So I would suggest you go look at that one and come up with thoughts and ideas for how you will discuss this and convince me, because the answer is no until you do. And tears aren't going to work. You know, we gotta do this isn't going to work. Or you'll be sorry if you don't isn't going to work. Don't threaten C-level executives. You will not prosper when you do that. Okay? Nerman.
I have a question. Yeah, so are we going to have some product, like for instance, like let's say our company needs this product, and then I give you reasons why we need that product, or
the answer is yes. I will give you basic information, but I don't want this to get down to an actual tool name, because you could be discussing a program that requires money, maybe not a tool. You could be discussing training that's necessary for everyone that's really expensive, or those sorts of things. So don't get tied into a particular technical tool. Okay. You should be able to speak to everything in reference to business risk and bottom line. Okay?
But yeah, everything regarding like cybersecurity, I mean IT.
Yes, I will give you the particulars, and I'm even going to give you a percentage of the budget that this is going to require.
And, without going into dirty details of federal government acquisition, you will not want to be specific about a tool or a software or a hardware. There's competition involved. There's all that to be involved as well. Just something to keep in mind if you're going after a federal government job. I think the same thing for the companies too. They want the best value in the end, and that's every business person's mission in the end.
Yeah, that's another thing that you need to practice as a CISO, and that is your objectivity in reference to particular tools. You may really appreciate the guy from Cisco, but that doesn't mean that the Cisco tool or the Cisco solution is best for the job.
Something else that happens in real life is, and Scotty, I'm glad you do that sometimes. I don't know if we can pick it off on a YouTube video. I probably have to go through your YouTube videos to find it. Mm-hmm. You do have the CISO or the business leader who's read something in the newspaper or saw an advertisement on the Metro train and goes, I want this.
Yeah.
You have to explain why it's great or why it's not great, or
right. Okay, my last war story before we finish up. This actually occurred when I got hired into the program manager position for the Secretary of Defense IT. This was way back in 1999. Bill Cohen was the Secretary of Defense. Bill Cohen had a nasty habit of reading the Monday morning Washington Post. Was it Post? Yeah, Washington Post, in the business section where all of the technical ads were. And he would come in Monday morning with a folded newspaper and turn to the IT chief and say, I want that. And this new handheld computer or whatever, and he'd say, get me that. And, that's, somebody who is a United States cabinet level post directing the acquisition of certain items, not the best approach, especially when he was doing it based on an ad he saw in a newspaper. So when you have that conversation, you've got to be solidly researched so that you can speak to things like that. So nobody's going to walk in and say, well, my buddy from Palo Alto Networks says this is the best thing and I want to throw some business his way, don't go there. I've actually seen people put in jail. I'm not going to mention names, but people put in jail because they steered contracts to somebody that they liked. Don't do it. That is not considered ethical. The good old boy network is against the law in most cases. Be aware of that. Okay? Good topic, Chris. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to finish up this recording so that we can go on with our Saturdays. But I really appreciate you all participating, and I see people smiling and nodding and that sort of thing. So it's very helpful to understand that I'm getting good feedback as I'm sending these bites out into cyberspace. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know. Otherwise, I am stopping the recording.